She said, "You'll regret this." Just like that. No tears, no pleading. Just 5 words so sharp they seemed to cut the air itself. And the worst part? In that moment, I believed her. I remember exactly where I was standing. Right side of the kitchen island, palm pressed flat against the granite, trying to stay grounded. Her suitcase was by the door, half zipped, too heavy with clothes she hadn't even bothered folding. I'd offered her silence. She answered with venom. "You'll regret this," she repeated, like it was a curse she could lay on me with just the right tone. And maybe it was. But here's the truth she never saw coming. I do regret something. Just not what she thought. I regret not leaving sooner. That realization didn't come with fireworks or some big cinematic breakdown. It came in fragments, quietly, in the way the air changed when she left a room. In the way I began holding my breath around her without noticing. In how I memorized the sound of the garage door closing just to feel 5 seconds of peace. We were together 9 years. Married for 6. I used to joke that loving her felt like standing too close to a fire. Warm, intoxicating, dangerous. But the joke stopped being funny when I realized the fire wasn't warming me anymore. It was burning me down. The first time I knew something was off wasn't dramatic. It was Tuesday. I had brought home takeout from her favorite Thai spot. She looked at the bag like I had handed her trash. "Did I ask you to get this?" she said, scrolling her phone without looking at me. That was it. No thanks. No small talk. Just disinterest sharp enough to make my chest tighten. And yet, I remember apologizing. Saying something like, "No, I just thought you'd want a break from cooking." She didn't respond. Just walked upstairs, the plastic bag still on the counter, unopened. That was how it started. Not with screaming. Not with cheating. But with withdrawal. Emotional vacancy. Like watching someone slowly pack their soul into boxes you weren't invited to open. At first, I told myself she was just stressed. Work had been hard. She was juggling a promotion. Her mother was sick. I gave her space. Gave her the benefit of the doubt. Gave, and gave, and gave. Until one day, I realized I had nothing left to give. I wish I could say I caught her in some grand betrayal. But the truth is quieter. More brutal. It was the little things. Like how she used to say we and started saying I. How she stopped telling me when she'd be home. How she started locking her phone, then sleeping with it under her pillow. How she flinched when I touched her shoulder. How her eyes looked past me even when I was right in front of her. Once, I asked her if she still loved me. She didn't even lie. She just stared at me, eyes vacant, and said, "I don't know." I think that's the moment I started to die inside. I began keeping notes. Not because I planned to use them against her, but because I needed to make sense of what was happening. My therapist called it emotional mapping. I called it surviving. December 3rd, she canceled our weekend plans. Again, December 8th. She didn't come home until 2 a.m., said she was with the girls. December 14th, found a receipt from a rooftop bar. 2 drinks. 1 entree. December 15th, she told me I was clingy when I asked if we could talk. I wasn't looking for proof she was unfaithful. I was looking for proof I wasn't going crazy. That came later. The last week of January, I found a necklace under the passenger seat of her car. One I hadn't given her. Still in a little black box. Tag attached. She said it was a gift for a friend. A friend named Lucas, whose name appeared 37 times in her text log that month. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I just sat with it. That night, I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time. Not like a man deciding to fight for his marriage, but like a man realizing the fight was already over. The next day, I moved money. Quietly. Legally. I took nothing that wasn't mine, but I made sure what was mine stayed that way. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning survival. I started looking for apartments. 1 bedroom. Nothing fancy. Just something that smelled like freedom. And then came the fight. Not over cheating. Not over Lucas. Not even over love. It was about dishes. I had forgotten to run the dishwasher. She came home late, opened it, saw the dirty plates, and lost her mind. "What do you even do all day?" she snapped. I blinked. That's all I did. And somehow, that was enough to push her over the edge. "You're a child," she said. "A burden. Honestly, if you weren't so pathetic, I would have left you already." And that's when I finally spoke. "I think you should," I said. Silence. Not stunned silence. Icy, calculating silence. She tilted her head, almost amused. "You really think you'd survive without me?" I shrugged. "Let's find out." That's when she said it. You'll regret this. And I smiled. Not because I was confident, not because I was okay, but because for the first time in years, I finally knew who I was again. I moved out 2 days later. Just a duffel bag and a couple cardboard boxes shoved into the back of my car. I didn't make a scene. No long goodbye. No dramatic exit soundtrack playing in my head. I just placed my key on the kitchen counter and walked out. That silence, when the door clicked shut behind me, was louder than any fight we ever had. The first night alone was the hardest. Not because I missed her, but because I didn't recognize the quiet. I sat in a studio apartment with nothing on the walls, a mattress on the floor, and the hum of the refrigerator keeping me company. For a long time, I stared at the ceiling and wondered, what if she was right? What if I did regret this? Regret is a strange thing. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes, it just lingers like a fog, making everything feel heavier than it should. The first few weeks felt like wading through that fog. I still checked her Instagram. Still flinched when her name lit up on my phone. Still half expected her to show up at my door, full of apologies and confessions, like the ending of some half-decent movie. But that call never came. Instead, she sent an email. Not a heartfelt one. No explanations. No attempts at closure. Just a cold, formal subject line. Assets and logistics. The body of the message read like a business transaction. What she wanted. What she thought she deserved. What she was entitled to. Not a single sentence about the years we shared. No mention of what we built or what we broke. I remember reading it 3 times, hoping I missed something. I hadn't. That was the moment I stopped mourning her. Because you don't grieve someone who's alive, but has already left you in every way that matters. A week later, I met with my lawyer. His office smelled like coffee and old leather. A comforting mix for someone trying to divide a life into bullet points and legal language. He asked me a question I wasn't ready for. Do you want to fight, or do you want to be free? It was a simple question, but it hit me like a brick. I had nothing left to prove. No desire for revenge. No appetite for bitterness. I just wanted peace. I wanted to stop waking up with a tight chest and a dry mouth. I wanted to stop checking shadows for her absence. So I told him, I want to be free. He nodded, understanding immediately. That meant we'd take the high road. Fair division. No courtroom brawls. No public ugliness. Just clean cuts and closed doors. Funny thing is, when you don't fight back the way they expect, it throws them off. She called me the night she got the first draft of the settlement papers. It was the first time I heard her voice in weeks. I thought you'd make this hard, she said, like it was some kind of accusation. I thought you liked things hard. I replied before I could stop myself. She laughed, not kindly. You're really just gonna let me go that easy? I said, you left a long time ago. I'm just catching up. That shut her up. For once. It wasn't about punishing her. It was about saving myself. About stepping out of the ring after years of swinging at a ghost. From that point on, things moved quickly. She tried to stall. Tried to rewrite history in text that felt more like bait than reconciliation. Remember our trip to Mendocino? I still have that sweater you gave me in Tahoe. I never stopped loving you. I was just confused. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I'd finally learned the difference between nostalgia and love. Nostalgia is a liar. It paints everything in golden light, hides the bruises, muffles the raised voices. It makes you miss things that almost destroyed you. And love? Real love doesn't need to manipulate you into staying. I had to remind myself of that every day. Some nights, I still caught myself glancing at the empty side of the bed, half expecting her to be there. It wasn't longing. It was habit. And habits, like wounds, take time to heal. I started running again. 5 miles every morning, rain or shine. There's something honest about running. No distractions, no pretense. Just you, your breath, and the road ahead. I signed up for a pottery class. Something about creating with my hands made me feel alive again. Clay doesn't lie. It doesn't pretend to be what it's not. If you're too rough, it collapses. If you're too soft, it doesn't hold shape. You have to be steady, present, honest. I found myself opening up to strangers more than I ever had with her. The barista at the cafe near my place knew my order by week 2. A neighbor in 3B invited me to trivia night. I went, even though I hate trivia. Lost every round. Laughed more than I had in years. Life didn't explode into Technicolor overnight. There were still gray days. Still mornings where my chest ached for no reason. But slowly, I began to breathe again. And that's when it happened. 2 months post-separation, I got a call from a mutual friend, Jason. She's been asking about you, he said, voice low. Said she made a mistake. I didn't respond right away, because part of me had been waiting for that sentence. But it came too late. She said she made a mistake. That sentence echoed in my head for days. The kind of echo that doesn't fade, just gets quieter until it becomes part of the background noise. I'd imagined hearing those words so many times before, during the worst of it, when I was curled up in that cold studio apartment, wondering if I'd just thrown my life away. But when they finally came, they didn't land like I thought they would. I wasn't angry. I wasn't vindicated. I was tired. Jason said she asked if I'd be open to talking. Not fixing, not explaining, just talking. And I'll be honest, for a moment, I considered it. Not because I wanted her back, but because I was curious. Curious about what version of herself she'd show up as this time. We met in a coffee shop downtown, the same one we used to go to when we first started dating. It was late afternoon. Warm sunlight spilled through the windows, dust particles dancing in the air. She wore that same green coat I always liked, the one with the gold buttons. For a second, she looked like the woman I fell in love with. But only for a second. She smiled when she saw me. I didn't smile back. Not to be cruel, but because I didn't know who I was smiling at anymore. She sat across from me and started talking before I even ordered a drink. I just want to say I'm sorry, she began. I don't expect anything from you. I just need you to know I wasn't in my right mind. I wasn't fair to you. I know that now. I nodded slowly, letting her talk. She went on about how things got blurry, how she felt lost, how she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. I listened. I really listened. Because somewhere inside me, I needed to know that she did know. That I wasn't crazy. That the man she once claimed to love didn't just vanish into the fog of her discontent without reason. Then she said it. I think we could find our way back. There it was. Not a question. Not quite a plea. Just a statement left hanging in the air like a delicate thread, waiting for me to tug it. But I didn't. Instead, I looked her straight in the eye and said, I believe you're sorry. And I believe you're lost. But I also believe you knew exactly what you were doing when you looked me in the eye and said, you'll regret this. She flinched. I hadn't raised my voice. I wasn't cruel. I just told the truth. I do regret something, I continued. But it's not leaving. It's not walking away. It's not the silence or the nights alone or starting over. I regret staying so long after you stopped showing up. I regret giving you 100 chances to choose me when you already had both feet out the door. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just sat there, quiet for the first time since I walked in. And then I said the one thing I didn't know I'd been carrying all along. I don't regret a single step I took away from you. Her shoulders felt like she'd been carrying weight too, and now realized it was never hers to bear. I wish you peace, I said, standing up. But I'm not part of that wish anymore. And I walked out. No second glance. No dramatic pause. Just a quiet breath as the door swung shut behind me. This time, it was her turn to watch me leave. That was the last time I saw her. It's been a year since that day. The air in my life feels different now. Lighter. I no longer check my phone for her name. I no longer wake up with that tightness in my chest. I no longer flinch when someone gets close. I live in a new place. Small, sun-drenched, with shelves filled by books I actually read. There's a plant by the window that somehow hasn't died yet, even though I forget to water it. Maybe I'm learning. Maybe we both are. I've met someone new. It's early. Gentle. No firestorm. Just warmth. She asks questions. She listens to answers. She doesn't leave rooms like they're battlefields. Sometimes I catch myself smiling for no reason. And when I do, I think back to the kitchen island. To her last words. To my silence. She said, you'll regret this. And for a while I did. I regretted the years I spent trying to fix what was never whole. I regretted shrinking to fit inside someone else's idea of love. I regretted how long it took me to believe my own worth. But now I don't regret a single thing. Because walking away wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of finally coming home to myself.